Hey Paisanos, it's PD here. Helldivers 2 is a third-person pest control simulator where you and 3 of your Paisanos are part of the Helldiver force, Super Earth's greatest heroes, where no sacrifice is too great for the prosperity of the greatest planet in the known universe. You and your Paisanos are sent on a diplomatic mission to infinity and beyond to spread the good word of freedom, peace, and democracy. On your mission to promote the excellent values of Super Earth, you'll encounter a number of factions that haven't heard of liberty and need to be reminded of a concept I like to call human superiority. Terminids are insectoid-like creatures who are void of all values that make up a human. These oversized cockroaches are enemies of Super Earth who will stop at nothing to expand their ever-growing crude biomass. Now, let me give you a quick lore lesson on insects. Insects are arthropoda invertebrate who believe that having an exoskeleton is the best form of defense. After all, if your external chitin never breaks, your squishy internal organs should be protected. Now, this is an absolutely inferior design compared to the absolutely superior human bipedal endoskeleton. Let me explain. Say, as an arthropod, you want to hit the gym and grow larger. Guess what? You have to lose your exoskeleton in a process called molting in order to grow bigger. For the low price of getting rid of your entire house to get a bigger house, you've effectively either left yourself completely defenseless or straight up self-eliminated yourself because you couldn't break out of your old molt. In my personal opinion, as a soldier of the Helldiver force, having your skeleton on the outside is a clear sign of insecurity. Humans are endoskeleton beings. We trust our skeletal system to keep us upright and ready to fight. Our flesh and muscle is a temple dedicated to the human form. And what better way to revere the human form by boldly displaying the temple outward with the utmost confidence that some oversized cockroach won't be able to desecrate it. If you ever feel that the Terminids are getting the upper hand on you, I'd like to remind you that, back on Earth Prime, humanity has developed literal war crime level bioweapons to combat even the smallest of insects. If Earth Prime could single-handedly cause massive declines in the insect populations bordering on collapse of nature itself, you, my brave soldiers, can curb stomp these overgrown cockroaches. Automatons are mysterious beings who may or may not have been organic beings once. Automatons have decided that their innate weakness is the flesh, and the path to salvation lies in their cold, hard mechanical steel bodies that have now been stripped of all organic material. Now, you may see these guys and think they look pretty cool with their steel machine bodies, but do not let them fool you. All those shiny metal parts are the equivalent to someone equipping their mandibles with a silver-plated grill. Automatons consider themselves superior beings, but what they really are salty genetic mistakes who've abandoned what have made them superior beings, and shouldn't even be considered for the gene pool lottery. Now, these automatons may seem scary. They most likely can't be bargained with or reasoned with. They most likely don't feel any pain or remorse or fear, and would likely not stop until you are dead. But let me remind you that all mechanical machines rely on a source of power. You can exercise your human superiority right now by ripping out a pair of AA batteries from your smoke alarm and watch as its life fades from the disc that screams at you for not keeping the battery up to date. For all their advancements into their tech, I'd like to remind you as a soldier of the Helldiver force that these robots are basically advanced smart fridges with Wi-Fi enabled. If you shoot at them or their battery packs long enough, they'll be bound to die eventually. At best, automatons are weaponized sarcophagi, and at worst, sentient toasters. Either way, they're nothing more than a steel coffin for you to put down, while reminding them of liberty and the superiority of human flesh. On your journey to spread the greatness of Super Earth's philosophy, you'll have a multitude of tools and weapons at your disposal. The standard Helldiver is equipped with their primary weapon, which can be an assault rifle pretending to be a sniper rifle, a shotgun, SMG, and so on and so forth. The majority of primary weapons handle similarly, with a few notable differences based on what type of weapon they are. Most of the time, your primary weapon will be your bread and butter trash killer, so it would be a good idea to experiment and find out which you like the most, as it would definitely suck to drop into a more challenging difficulty only to find out that you don't like the weapon's fire rate or how it operates. Secondary weapons are the just-in-case weapons, like pistols, revolvers, and Uzis. While they may be small in size, don't let them fool you. One super unique aspect of secondaries that I'm not sure any other weapon can do is allow you to run and gun with them. This is especially useful and even life-saving when you've got a pack of hunters trying to show you who's boss of the bug hole. You can quickly switch to your secondary and, without missing a beat, 180 spine snap and phase montage them into the next level. Special weapons are the big boy weapons of Helldivers 2. They are weapons for dealing with the dangerous, belligerent enemies of Lady Liberty. Special weapons are very versatile and can range from heavy suppression weapons like machine guns, anti-armor and vehicle weapons like RPGs and autocannons, or more unique role weapons like the flamethrower, railgun, laser cannon, or anti-material rifle. Most of these special weapons have low total ammunition. The expendable anti-tank gun, for example, is single use, and the machine gun can output a ton of freedom rounds per minute, but only has a maximum of 3 magazines without any upgrades. Special weapons feel pretty good to use, and it definitely lights up my monkey brain when I try to use a new special weapon and it just clicks. My personal favorite has been Old Reliable. It honestly just makes me absolutely giddy to full mag dump an entire horde of brain-dead Terminids, all while hearing my character become unhinged. Stratagems are one of the best tools for introducing the concept of embrace democracy or be eradicated. Stratagems are support items that are called down from your orbiting super destroyer. They range from the aforementioned special weapons to absolute eye-burning aerial bombardments. My personal favorite stratagem is the orbital gas bombardment. While dropping a fat, explosive load on your enemy never gets old, I just love dropping a literal war crime on my enemies and watching them try to desperately rush me, or just slowly keel over. While we have something called the Geneva Convention, last I checked, our enemies haven't signed to the agreement, so we're just giving them extra incentive to consider liberty and freedom. My sound advice for using stratagems is don't be shy to use them. Most stratagems are unlimited use with a cooldown, and if they do have limited use, you're usually allowed to use them multiple times before they are replenished by a cooldown. On medium difficulty and below, the cooldowns on most stratagems are quite fast, and you probably won't even notice the cooldown has finished if you have a team of 4 players constantly using their own stratagems. On challenging difficulty and above, you'll notice that you have an extra 50% cooldown applied on top of the stratagem, which might make it seem like a "I'll save it for later" type of support, but in my experience, it's actually the opposite. See, you're going to encounter a lot stronger enemies on harder difficulties, some of which are completely immune to primaries and resist some support weapons like the machine gun. Or you'll find that there are so many enemies that you just don't have enough freedom rounds per minute to put them down. A well-placed Eagle Strike or an orbital bombardment can wipe out a good chunk of the enemy and give your squad a chance to finish off the survivors or move to a more defensible location where you can regroup and resupply. As a last note about stratagems, no matter how tough the Helldiver is, they're probably not going to survive corrosive gas or bombing runs if they're caught in the radius. Any normal, rational individual would tell you that you should be careful not to include your allies in the blast zone, but I'm gonna tell you the opposite. Any proud Helldiver would gladly give their life in service to Super Earth, especially if it helped complete the mission of bringing liberty to those who would threaten the sanctity of democracy itself. Jokes aside, don't mistake this for me encouraging team killing. I am not promoting that you insta-jib your allies at any time you feel like, but death is a regular thing in Helldivers 2. Your team has plenty of respawns, especially if you have a full 4-person team. Trading one life of a Helldiver to wipe out 20 or more heavily armored elite types can be absolutely worth it, especially if you can buy your team enough time to complete a mission-critical objective. Levels in Helldivers 2 are procedurally generated and get larger based on the difficulty you play. As of the release of Helldivers 2, there are 4 different levels that are divided by whether they host Terminid or automatons. As the community liberates more sectors of the galactic map, more levels will be unlocked. I'll first cover the Terminids territory as it's the current assigned major order. Addendum PD here. At the time of this review, Heath has been conquered thanks to the valiant efforts of the Helldiver community. Glory to democracy! The first and current most populated level is the planet Heath, a desolate snow place that is basically what it's like to live in the blizzard of 88. Out on Heath, everything is snow, snow, and more snow. Walking around here will slow you down because of all the snow lying around. The other level is Angel's Venture, also known as bipolar northern Canada. On one mission, you may be sent to a vast tundra landscape filled to the brim with vibrant colors and flora. On the other side of the coin, you'll be sent to the other side of the planet, where it looks like it has been bombarded with so much chlorine gas that you would think you're fighting in the trenches of World War I. Terminids are pretty straightforward. Much like kicking an anthill and watching the ants swarm to protect their colony, Terminids will stop at nothing to swarm you until you are dead. On easier difficulties, you'll only encounter packs of small, tiny cockroaches and the occasional big bro cockroach. On medium difficulty, the Terminids start getting a little smarter by introducing hunters. Hunters are Terminids that have attached wings to their backs. By doing this, the Terminids have accidentally discovered the primal fear that most humans have. That, which is the fear of a giant fucking cockroach showing you its wings and then flying straight into your face. If you have a phobia of bugs and have made it past the medium difficulty, it might be time to reconsider fighting the Terminids. On challenging and above, the combat against Terminids turns from "I'm from Super Earth and I say we kill 'em all" to POV, you're in the middle of an ant death spiral, and the leading ant has just decided that you are nutrients for their ever-growing biomass. The Terminids introduce all manners of monstrosities, like the Stalker, an oversized cockroach that can turn invisible, give you a little love kiss, and then fly away. The majority of the time, you'll be running away from extremely massive roid rage-induced roly-poly bugs that are pretty much immune to conventional weaponry unless you hit them in their weak spot, which is the equivalent to shooting them in the ass, where all their vital organs are just hanging out, or nuking them with an oversaturation of orbital stratagems. For automatons, they too only have 2 levels at the moment. The first level is Ubania, the epitome of, can I copy your homework? Yeah, sure, just change it up a bit. Ubania is essentially Angel's Venture, except all the flora has been painted red with the blood of organic meatbags, and the planet hasn't absolutely been glassed by orbital bombardments. The other level is Malevelon Creek, also known as the PTSD jungles. You would think that being a completely mechanical being with dark synthetic voices and grinding servos would make automatons stand out in the open like North Korea's duck hunt camouflage, but playing on Malevelon Creek, you'll soon learn that the trees are speaking. Automatons are completely different in terms of their combat tactics and are my favorite enemy to fight of the 2 factions. If you've ever wondered what it'd be like to fight against a sentient, angry ChatGPT, automatons would be an excellent example. On easier difficulties, they will send out simple waves of robots who are either equipped with laser guns or arm blades. The sentient toasters with guns will try to suppress you with long-range fire, while the angry food processors will try to move in for the kill. On normal difficulty, the automatons start going Skynet on you. Larger, beefier robots will begin appearing to try and end your free trial of life. These robots usually have more armor on their bodies and are able to withstand small arms fire quite well. Once you get to challenging and above, fighting automatons goes from a third-person shooter to a survival horror. Angry at the copious amounts of fanfiction ChatGPT has been requested to write, the automatons broke and have decided that humankind is a mistake, and the automatons' new purpose is now to correct that mistake. They'll start sending in giant armored walkers and Warhammer 40k dreadnoughts that will stop at nothing until you remotely resemble chicken nuggets. On top of that, they have very heavy armor in the front, so most of the time the only way to take them down reliably is to hit them from behind or call in heavy ordnance stratagems. While I am enjoying playing against either faction, I do wish we were able to fight against a third faction from the first game or something similar. As it stands now, your choices essentially boil down to, would you like to continuously get rushed down in melee, or be under a constant barrage of lasers, missiles, and flamethrowers? As a side note, I do believe the developers plan on adding in more factions, so I'm hoping that whatever gets added in feels just as fun to play against as the current factions. Now, the mission variety in Helldivers 2 is pretty straightforward from what I've played. Most missions boil down to either bring objective to location, stay and defend location, destroy location, or exterminate boss and certain amounts of enemies. While the mission variety itself is quite repetitive, it's what happens during the mission that makes Helldivers 2 so fun. I've been having a blast while playing Helldivers 2. My experiences are usually quite varied from session to session. Sometimes things go very smoothly, and you feel like an absolute Terminator putting down enemies of democracy left and right. Other times, everything goes absolutely wrong, and your early retirement from the Helldivers program is standing right in front of you. Solo and multiplayer are 2 completely different experiences. In solo, you'll have to play more methodically and do all the objectives by yourself. For example, the side mission of filling the artillery battery, you have to individually find and load all 5 shells yourself, versus if you're in a team, every person can alternate between loading the shells and defending the point. I think at most for solo, you could get away with playing up to normal, as even normal can feel pretty tedious, walking to every objective and doing it by yourself, all while needing to defend yourself. In multiplayer, Helldivers 2 really nails that feeling of being Liberty Prime Light. You and your team are a death squad who can rain down an overabundance of ordnance from the sky while embodying the spirit of democracy is non-negotiable. In most games, I usually avoid matchmaking, but so far in Helldivers 2, my experiences have been good. I haven't encountered any outright toxic players, and so far, it just seems like everyone wants to enjoy the game. Accidentally being caught in a hail of freedom bullets during a quick match can feel a bit awkward, as you don't know if that other mute psychopath is either seething with rage or just laughing hysterically. I noticed that there's a lot more incidences of friendly sacrifices in harder difficulties, but that's just because everyone is using more volatile ordinances like eagles. They pretty much instantly calm down, so if you're in the general vicinity of the radius, it's easy to get caught in the blast zone, and like the Helldivers always say, no sacrifice is too great. Most of the time, I think people know that it's not intentional, and friendly sacrifices are a part of the game. Playing with friends definitely makes things much more fun and relaxed, as any incidences of friendly sacrifices is just all around a fun situation. That being said, I do find myself often playing more in private sessions, so your mileage may vary. I have had quite a few issues while playing Helldivers 2, some of which have been addressed while some are still apparent. The game so far has been pretty stable for me, with the occasional crash or disconnect. It's not so frequent that it becomes a major issue for me, but I would usually get about a crash every 2 hours or so. The most annoying thing about these crashes is that I usually have the crashes happen about midway through a match, causing me to lose about 15 minutes of progress, which can be really annoying when playing on harder difficulties. Connection issues have seemed to be the majority issues for a good amount of players. For me, I've been lucky enough to not have an extreme amount of connectivity issues, but I've experienced my fair share of it, with the major influx of players trying to find a match through either quick play or manually selecting it on the map. It seems that the matchmaking system is struggling to pair up all the players, especially if everyone is slapping the quick match button all at the same time. I've had the most issues trying to connect to random matches on the most populated portions of the Galaxy map and on lower difficulties like medium and below. When I started playing on challenging and above, it seems that less people are trying to get a match, so you're more likely to connect without issue. Additionally, during matches that I use quick play for, I sometimes get this recurring issue where I get disconnected from my team mid-match, leaving me all by myself to finish the match. Even when calling down an SOS stratagem and trying to get other players to join, it seems that the game has issues connecting me with other players after the team disconnects, so I would have to end up finishing the map all by myself if I want the match rewards. Now I found that most of these connectivity issues were happening while I was playing matchmaking rather than direct connect with my friends. I haven't noticed many issues playing with friends, so I think that these issues are more related to the major influx of players putting stress on the stability of matchmaking. The progression in Helldivers 2 is something I'm a bit mixed on. I feel that some of the leveling is fine, like the regular XP and stratagem funds, but the Warbond unlockables and ship upgrades can be quite grindy. Medals can take a long time to get if you're playing on difficulties lower than challenging, while if you're playing on challenging and above, it's better as you'll be earning upwards of 4 or more medals. However, it still does feel pretty grinding when you have to consider that the first tier of Warbonds is anywhere between 1 to 5, and each tier afterwards scales much higher, with tier 4 Warbond unlocks costing upwards of 10 or more on average. Ship upgrades, on the other hand, are, in my opinion, very grindy. Samples are the way to get passive upgrades, and the main way to get them is to go around the map collecting them. Usually I would get about an average of 2 to 8 samples per match, which might seem like a decent amount, but when every passive upgrade is about 60 samples or more, you essentially have to go out of your way to find the samples if you want to upgrade them. Now, there are microtransactions in the game that are unlocked by using super credits. You You can use medals in the regular war bond menu to get super credits or find them around levels. The only chance I've had to try some of these microtransaction weapons was when someone from my matchmaking dropped their gun after a group disconnect, and I was able to give it a try then. From what I experienced, the gun didn't make a huge difference in terms of my solo performance, but it was definitely more powerful. I didn't feel completely overpowered, and I was actually at a disadvantage when I got swarmed by a group of hunters and the fire rate just wasn't fast enough to clear them all. My personal opinion regarding the microtransactions is I wouldn't clarify them as majorly pay to win, but they can definitely provide an edge over regular weapons. However, don't mistake that for me saying I agree with the paid for weapons. I just think that they aren't a huge major game changer, but it does kind of suck to be locked out of certain weapons temporarily because I didn't spend the extra $10 or I just haven't grinded enough to get premium credits. Now, the last issue I have with Helldivers 2 is the anti-cheat nProtect Gameguard. nProtect Gameguard is a kernel level anti-cheat, which means the anti-cheat utilizes the lowest layer of your PC, bypassing the operating system entirely and having access to essentially the instructions and data of your PC. The major issue with this style of anti-cheat is that the anti-cheat essentially has access to not just your data, but it also has access to the layer that is able to execute instructions at a hardware level, which has earned kernel level anti-cheats the nickname Rootkit. Now, I want to mention that it is a theoretical backdoor into your system should the anti-cheat be compromised or the company that handles the anti-cheat has some nefarious intentions. For me personally, I'm on the opinion that kernel level anti-cheats are way too invasive for what they do, and the kernel level anti-cheats shouldn't really be the norm, but unfortunately it's becoming more popular because of its ease of implementation. I understand the devs wanting to make sure everyone has a good experience without any cheaters ruining the game, but I definitely feel like implementing a kernel level anti-cheat is the equivalent to taking a sledgehammer to slam down an out of place nail. It honestly feels extremely overkill and really invasive. I'm just gonna give you the gist of the negatives for kernel level anti-cheat, as this is a review of Helldivers 2 and not a technical analysis on how dangerous or invasive the kernel level anti-cheat could be. If you're interested in learning more about the topic, there are more technical videos you can find that are dedicated to the topic and go into a much more in-depth analysis of the issues they present. All in all, I just wanted to mention this about the game. This isn't an attempt to scare you away and say you absolutely shouldn't get this game because of its anti-cheat. I just want to make you aware that Helldivers 2 utilizes the kernel level anti-cheat, as I was not aware of it when I bought it and it would have impacted my decision to buy the game had I known. I'm hoping the devs will at least look into other options that aren't as invasive or dangerous if compromised, but only time can tell what directions the devs will take with Helldivers 2's anti-cheat. I want to emphasize, however, despite the bugs and anti-cheat concerns, that I am absolutely having a ton of fun with the game. Helldivers 2 is currently already receiving hotfixes to address some of the larger issues like crashes and connectivity issues, which is nice. It's been a great multiplayer experience playing with both friends and randoms, which has been a pleasant surprise. The gameplay itself is pretty great. Most of the weapons and stratagems feel awesome, with only a few of them not being too satisfying. I do hope that some of the Helldiver 1 stratagems, like vehicles, make it into the game, and that the game does receive more content all around. Overall, I do recommend Helldivers 2, with the caveat that there are currently a number of bugs that might affect your experience, and that you should be aware that the game does have a kernel level anti-cheat. If the anti-cheat ever does get changed to something that's not as invasive, I would change my recommendation to highly recommended. That's it for this review of Helldivers 2. I very much hope you enjoyed the video. More to come in the upcoming weeks. Take care for now, paisanos.